So if you're just now joining us on YouTube, we're looking at our 4-5 homework, and I'm looking at the second side. I was just saying that things you need to know: angles in a triangle add up to 180. Equilateral triangles, angles are all 60. And in an isosceles triangle, the base angles are congruent. The one tricky like curveball I think I threw you right now on this one is number 1, to find y. I needed you to go back and remember Pythagorean theorem, which I will do a whole lesson on. Don't worry if you don't remember that, but that's how I found y, was I did 3 squared plus 4 squared equals y squared. Take another second to look at this, and then I'll ask if we have any questions.
I just have trouble like figuring out what to do.
What to do when? Gwen, I'm not hearing you, girl. Okay, Gwen, when you come back, I'll answer your question for sure, but I think you're cutting out on me. Anybody else? What questions do we have on 1 through 6? Any questions I can answer 1 through 6?
Could you just go over how you did number 6?
I can go over number 6. So number 6 is an equilateral triangle because it tells us right there. Sorry, my iPad fell asleep. Come back on, please. Okay, number 6, it gives us an equilateral triangle, which means that all my sides are congruent. And that's how I found my x's, because I knew any of the 3 sides were congruent. So 3x plus 8 and 4x minus 4 are equal to each other. Same thing with the angles, is I have my angles are all equal to 60. So 2y equals 60, and that's how I knew to set that one up.
Miss White.
Mm-hmm.
So on number 1, why did you square the sides?
That's Pythagorean theorem.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
So like I said, we'll do a whole lesson on it, but
Okay.
Sometimes I forget kind of where we're at. So I threw that at you because I know you've done it before, but we will remind ourselves about that later.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else on 1 through 6? Austin, did that help on number 6?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. What
On number 3, how did you know x was 66?
There we go. Okay. So on number 3, we had 4 and 4 were our sides. And so if those are congruent, then it means the opposite angles are congruent. So x and 66 are congruent. And so I had no work because I just knew if the sides were congruent, their opposite angles were congruent. Now y is not 66 because y is across from the side that's 3. So that's not congruent to 66. So I had to do my just normal triangle where I added 66 and 66 plus y equals 180.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Any other questions on these 6 that you see right now? Okay, we can come back to them, but I want to scroll down so you can look at 7, 8, and 9. You can still see some of the work for 4, 5, and 6, but I also want to show 7, 8, and 9. The biggest thing on these problems is looking at what's congruent. So like, for example, on number 7, I know that like y and 10 are congruent because their sides are marked congruent. I also knew that this angle was 43 because this angle was 43 and they're across from opposite sides that are congruent. Z was maybe a little bit harder. That was something like Pythagorean theorem that I maybe assumed that you guys knew, but maybe don't necessarily. If I have these congruent angles up top, they're across from congruent sides. So if those angles are congruent, then that means that these little parts are also congruent. So that's how I knew Z was 5. In order to find x on this number 7, I needed to look at the triangle as a whole. And so I had 43, 43, and then this top angle was not just x, it was 2x because it was both sides of it. Number 8, you need to look at your congruent sides. So I've got these 2 sides are congruent, which means that x and z are congruent. And so I set up equation 60 plus 2x equals 180 to get x by itself. And then z is the same thing as x. So z and x both equal 60. To find y, I needed to focus on just the bottom triangle. And I knew that my two angles down here were 50 and 50 because they were told to me. And then that meant together, all three of those angles added up to 180. So 50 plus y equals 180. Y equaled 80. And then last one, number 9, I gave you all the side lengths because that tells me if they're all the same, then all of my sides are the same, and then all my angles are congruent, equilateral and equiangular. If all my angles were congruent, well, none of them had the same variable, but I knew that in a equilateral triangle, all the angles are 60. So I set each one of those angles equal to 60. All right, I know I just explained all of those, but those were problems that like a lot of my other classes asked, so I thought I'd get ahead of your questions. Are there any other questions I can talk about while I'm sitting here?
So I just wanted to clarify that you want us to start turning in the homework before class?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes, and I still want you to correct it after class. The only reason is when I ask you to turn it in during class, like everyone keeps turning it in late. And so I had a bunch of zeros, and then you guys turned it in at like midnight, and then I had to go back and fill it in. So it's just like easier for all of us if you just have it done at the beginning of class, turn it in, and then we move on from there.
So do we resubmit the ones that we corrected, or
That makes
just like leave it?
if that makes you happy, great. But if you tried everything, you put your best effort in, you don't have to resubmit it.
Okay.
Any other questions about this entire back page? Okay, I'm gonna go to the front then. I can come back to the back later, but let's move to the front. This was practicing our 5 postulates on proving triangles were congruent. So I'm looking at the first 6 right now. This, on our quiz, we did okay on this. The part that I think we struggled the most with was when I asked you like what's missing. We did okay on this part, proving triangles were congruent. However, the ones that we did miss, a lot of people struggled when they didn't mark their picture. So do you see how I have congruent marks, vertical angle marks, congruent marks? Like you need to mark up your picture. And like I'll give you access back to that quiz because I want you to see the mistakes because those are just such easy things. And I think we were trying to hold it all in our head. And just because it's on our iPad and not paper doesn't mean we don't do the exact same things as we would do as if it were on paper. So you need to make sure that you mark it. Ideally, I want you even writing reflexive property or vertical angles, but at bare minimum, you should at least draw on your picture what's congruent. So that being said, I think it was pretty easy to see what 2 and 2, 3, 5, and 6 were. I think 1 and 4 were the tough ones here. The reason I think 1 and 4 were tough is because we've got parallel lines. And so I'm keeping it kind of zoomed out so you can still see everything, but I'm talking specifically about 1 and 4. I have the green marks on those pictures with the arrows. That means that my lines are parallel. And then when I have parallel lines in a transversal, I have alternate interior angles. So angles 1 and 2 are congruent in the first one. That gives me my side angle side. In number 4, I've got alternate interior angles again, but based on what's marked this time, I have angle, angle, side. Remember, it's only angle, side, angle if this side is in between the 2 angles. And on the 2 AASs I have here, the side is not the one that's marked, that's in between the angles. It's another side. Any questions on these 6? If you got all 6 of these, give yourself a high five at home. Good job. All right, let's look at the next 9. I drew lines in here because I was getting confused as I was going over this. Like the line is like above, like that's my answer and that's my answer and that's my answer. So like everything above the line goes together, everything below the line goes together. Take a look at these. The one I do want to talk about is number 8. So take a second, look at these, and then I'm going to talk about number 8.
Do we have to put like the congruent mark after it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so start getting in the practice of putting the congruent mark after like SSS and ASA and stuff like that. Okay, for number 8, what I think some of us thought, which isn't wrong, it's just not what I was looking at, is we were looking at these triangles right here. You're like, okay, I've got this triangle and I've got this triangle. And you're like, okay, I've got my sides congruent and I've got these vertical angles, but then other than that, they're not congruent. I want us to kind of flip our perspective, and I want us to look at the triangles that are overlapping each other. So I want to look at the ones that look like this. This big triangle down here. We see that it has a right angle and then a side, and then its bottom side is the same as the one that it's overlapping with. And then same idea with this one that's overlapping that yellow one. It has that reflexive side, it has a 90-degree, and it has another side. So that's how I saw side angle side. If I was testing you, I would make it very obvious what I was looking for or what I see in order to do that. Any other questions on these 9, or do you want me to talk more about number 8? Any questions? Okay. So if you wrote no or not congruent or something on number 8, I can see why you would have written that, but I wanted to show you what I saw and why I wrote SAS. Okay, I'm just going to scroll down a little bit so you can see the last 2. And this is what I was talking about. This is the type of problem that we did the worst on the quiz. I just think it's a tougher type of problem. These 2 I think were pretty simple. First off, because they're not touching triangles, so you could obviously see the one thing that was missing. It wasn't like they had one thing marked and then were touching, so you had to know reflexive, and then you were looking for what's missing, blah, blah, blah. But I did want to explore a little bit more of this angle side angle versus angle angle side. So if I told you B and E were congruent and this side was congruent, in order to get ASA, you only had one option. We only had the angle that was connected to that side that was marked. If that side that was marked was between BC and EF, then we had to finish off this congruence with C and F. Angle, side, angle. Vice versa, the other one is AAS, which means I don't want the side to be in between my 2 angles. I want it to be somewhere else. So if I already told you A and D were congruent and AB and DE were congruent, then we have to choose C and F, because that would give me 2 angles and a side where the side is not in between the 2 angles. If you chose B and E, that wouldn't be right because it would be ASA, not AAS. All right, that's a lot of alphabet soup for this morning. Any general questions on this worksheet? Okay, you need to know how to do these things for the quiz, so that's why this was practice. If this was something you struggled with, I would consider getting another homework, like re-downloading this and trying it again. I also can post more practice problems, and we're about to do a couple together, and then I'm gonna release you to do a review packet. So go ahead and turn this in. I'm gonna do attendance really quick. And once you've turned this in, I want you to go to your Schoology. Oh, I'm sure I didn't rename this. Let's see if I even put down the right thing. I changed my mind like yesterday morning, so I don't remember if I got you all the way finished. Today's Friday. Okay, yeah. The first one that says review for quiz 4445 factoring, that's the one we're going to do in class, and I'm going to go change it to say in class in a second. And then the second one that says review for 4445 quiz, that's going to be homework. So I want you to open this on your iPad right now. While you do that, I'm going to go change the name of it, and I'm going to take attendance. So it should say in-class review now, so you could hopefully see the difference. All right, let's see. So far I have, 17 of us turned this in. Awesome. I have Isaac, Megan, Bethy, Amanda, Gwenna, Allie, Maggie, Silas, Van, Sydney, Elise, Cece, Barrett, Geo, Ava, Austin, and Jade's homework all on time. If I didn't say your name, just make sure you get that into me this class period or right after it. I'd love it ASAP because I want to grade these homeworks and get your grades all up to date. My goal during this online period is to stay as up to date on your homework grades and your quiz grades as possible. So I'm really, really pushing to get all your grades and stuff in. Okay, let me come back to here. So we all should have this, and we're going to download this to Notability because we're going to do a few problems together, and then I'm going to release you out. Yep, this one. So this was a homework, or this was what I gave last year as a review for the quiz, but I used some problems from here for your homework for last night. And then we are not doing factoring on this quiz because we didn't get to it. I don't know what was different last year about timing, but we got to do some factoring in class, and we will for sure do factoring with you guys because I think that was maybe a part that you guys were doing online last time, so I really want to focus on that, but I didn't want to shove it in this unit, so we're not going to do it yet. Okay. I want to just do a quick couple review problems. So let's look at the proofs first. I've got 14, 15, 16. Look at the proofs. Which one should we do? Which proof should we do?
Is this different than the other like review? Is this the review due tomorrow or on Monday or Tuesday?
This is not due. This is just extra problems.
Oh, okay.
Let's do 15.
Amanda, what did you say?
Can we do 15?
I can do 15. Okay. Number 15, that's what actually all my other classes asked too. And I think we asked because it says bisects and you're like, oh, I don't know if we've done any like that. So we're looking at number 15 and I have given and prove, and I've got a lot of blanks to fill. But without knowing anything, I know that this goes in my first box and my prove goes in the very last box. We'll figure everything else out as we go, but let's fill those in first. Again, you could know nothing and know how to start the proof at least. RT is congruent to RQ. And given SR bisects angle TSQ, and angle T is congruent to angle Q. First thing I'm going to do is label my picture based on what this told me. Okay, first, angle T is congruent to angle Q. That's an easy label. Okay, those angles are congruent. Cool. Then it says SR bisects TSQ. Okay, TSQ is right here, and SR is this. Who knows what bisects means? Who can tell me what bisects means?
Isn't it like perpendicular, like it insects?
Not necessarily perpendicular. It could be perpendicular, but just generally, what does it mean to bisect something?
Doesn't it mean like they're equal?
What's equal?
TSQ and like TRQ maybe? Like a different angle?
You're like almost there, Ava.
It's to like
STR and SQR, like the two triangles, because it goes down the middle.
We're like dancing right around it. Like if
it splits the shape in half, and 1 and 2, so it means 1 and 2 are congruent.
Good. It splits anything. To just bisect means to split in half, to split into 2 equal parts. So you're right, Ava, it makes 2 congruent angles, and it splits these 2 into congruent angles right here. Very good. I don't know who jumped in to finish that, but thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, so if it says SR bisects TSQ, it means that I've got these 2 angles right here. The second line says definition of an angle bisector. Well, by definition, we just talked about that, it means it splits it into 2 congruent pieces. So I'm just going to say which 2 pieces are congruent now, angle 1 and angle 2. And we nicely named those angles so I don't have to say like TSR or QSR or anything crazy like that. Okay, so I have that done. Oh, the next line's completely blank, and then I say the triangles are congruent. Let's go back up to my picture and see if there's something that I can say is congruent that's not already marked.
Couldn't you say like the STR and like SQR congruent because you got like the reflexive property and the two angles?
Well, I already have these angles are congruent. So what else can I mark congruent? Right now, I just have these angles and these angles. I need a third thing to prove the triangles are congruent.
SR is
SR
congruent
is
to
congruent
SR.
to SR.
There we go. I heard reflexive property, but I wanted to hear exactly what it was. It's SR is congruent to SR. Very good. I have a couple people jumping in, which means that a lot of us know this, which is great. SR is congruent to SR. And that's our reflexive property. We're used to just marking that and then moving on. Don't forget that we sometimes get to use that as part of my proof. And so I actually have to physically write SR is congruent to SR. Okay, now I can say my triangles are congruent, and which of my 5 postulates do I get to use?
It would be angle, side.
Why, Ava?
Because the side is not in between the two angles.
The side is not in between the two angles, so it is angle, angle, side. Very good. And then the last reason is the only thing we learned on Tuesday. Once I prove a triangle is congruent, then I can say anything in that triangle is congruent to the other triangle. Who remembers what that reason is?
Definition of congruent triangles. Or there was another one. I kind of forgot what it was.
Anyone remember what the other one was? I think most of us use definition of congruent triangles because that's the easiest one, right? The other one is called corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. If you just know definition of congruent triangles, oh, you're correct. All right, that is one proof. So I wanted to go over one proof altogether so that we had something to work off of. Again, this paper is not due at all. I'm just doing some extra problems. And so there's 2 more proofs that you can try on your own if you want. What I want to do next is go up to the top page and look at problems 12 and 13 and see if we can kind of breeze through those really quickly. Again, you can do 1 through 11 as extra practice. You can do the other proofs. If you want to do factoring, go for it. But I want to do a couple of these really quick. We're just going to set up number 13 and then we'll see how much of 12 we can get to before I want to move on. Okay, number 13 says both triangles are equilateral. Someone I haven't talked to today. What does equilateral mean?
All sides are congruent.
All sides are congruent. Very good. Isaac, what else does it mean? Somebody else.
All
All
angles
angles
are
are congruent.
Very good. All angles are congruent. And all angles are what? What's their actual measure?
60.
60. Very good. Those are 3 pieces of information we know if we know that these triangles are equilateral. So in this picture, I gave you all angles. We know that all the angles are equal, so I could want to set up 9x plus 33 equals 2w minus 12, but I can't do that. Instead, I don't know, somebody I haven't talked to, instead, what could I do? How can I find x and w and y?
You can plug each of the angles into equal 120. So for example, like 9x plus 33 equals 120.
It doesn't equal 120.
Wouldn't you set it equal to 60?
Oh, 60.
60.
They're all
Just 60.
Oh, I was thinking like making it to be 180.
Yes. Well, all 3 of them will make 180 if each one of them equals 60.
I know what you're saying. I got it.
Very good. No, Gwen, I appreciate that you knew that we had to set them all equal to something individually. And as we were reminded earlier, all of the angles individually equal 60. We're not even going to solve this. I think you guys can do algebra on your own, but the setting up is the hard part. So we set these all up by setting them equal to 60. Cool. Let's jump to the next one. This is also an equilateral triangle. So someone else I haven't heard from yet. How am I gonna find X or Y? If this is an equilateral triangle, and these are all sides, what do we know about our sides?
They all equal 180.
Probably.
They all equal, not equal 180, that's my angle.
They equal each other.
They
Oh,
equal
they-
each
yeah.
other.
Equal each other.
They equal each other. So which ones can I set equal to each other?
4x minus
X.
5 and 3x.
Why?
Because they are the same variable.
Okay, so we can set these equal to each other. And this is super simple, so we'll finish solving this out. I get -5 equals -x, and I get 5 equals x. So I can plug that back in, and I get 3 times x, which is 15, or 20 minus 5. Oh, good, that's 15. Somebody new, how do I find y?
You just
Set
do
4y
4y plus 3
Plus
equals
3
15.
equal to 15.
Mm-hmm. 4y plus 3 equals 15. And then we would solve for that. Again, I think we can do algebra. I'm going to keep moving on. Let's look at C above it. All right, I've had a ton of people help me, but I know that there's some I still haven't talked to today. So I need help knowing what is going on here. So I'm focusing on this yellow triangle because I want to find x first. How do I know, or what is, I guess, this angle over here that I have highlighted again?
X.
Why, Sydney?
Because it's a since the two sides are congruent, they're the two angles would be congruent.
Perfect. Since the two sides are congruent, the angles are congruent. Very good. Thank you, Sydney. Somebody else, how do I set up an equation to find x?
You would put x plus 50 equals 180.
All right. And then I get 2x equals 130, and I get x equals 65. All right, that's helpful. That's helpful because I want to find this angle here. Somebody I haven't heard from, how do I find that angle?
If x is 65, I mean, you can assume that that's a linear pair.
You are. And how am I going to find that missing angle?
You do 180 minus 65.
Awesome, Silas. I love the vocab you used of a linear pair. That was amazing. I like to do this silly little question mark, so I'm going to minus 65 from 180, and I think that that is 115. Nope, no, that's not right. I think it's 115. Yep. Perfect. Thank you, Silas. All right, now I'm focused on this triangle over here to the left. So someone new, can you tell me what this little angle is up here at the top that I highlighted? What's that angle?
Is it y?
It is y. It's y because these two sides are congruent, and if the other angle in the bottom left corner is y, then the top angle is y. Very good. Somebody new set up an equation to find y for me.
Y plus 115 equals 180.
Very good. Is that Maggie talking to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, hi Maggie. 180 minus 115 is 65. Divide by 2 and I get 32.5. Now, decimals are not common, but a 0.5 is not a decimal that should alarm you at all. So just let that 0.5 be. If it's like 0.391728 ... we probably should be worried, but a 0.5 is okay. Okay, we doing all right on letter C? All right, last one I want to do is this letter B, and then I want to move on from this page. All right, somebody I haven't heard from yet. What's this triangle right here? What's going on?
Equilateral.
An equilateral triangle. So Van, what do we know about an equilateral triangle?
They're congruent sides and congruent angles.
Good, congruent sides, congruent angles, and what are those angles that are congruent called? Or what would they?
60 degrees.
Very good, Van. 60 degrees. All right, there's no variable in that, but I do need that to find another variable. Let's jump over and find y now. In order to find y, I need to know this new highlighted angle. Can somebody new tell me what that is?
$50.
It's 50. Very good, Austin. I know that these sides are congruent, so that's 50. If you're still having trouble with knowing that missing angle, you got to find a time to talk to me because I'm sure I can get you there super quick, but there's not much more of an explanation than it's the sides across from it are congruent, so those sides are congruent. Those angles are congruent. And if you don't get that angle, then we are lost on the rest of that problem. All right, I need that equation set up. Anybody can?
Y plus 50 plus 50 equals 180.
Very good. Triangle angle sum theorem means all of these add up to 180, so I get y equals 80. And I didn't even need y to be 80 in order to find x. I need to find this angle in order to find x. How do I find that angle? Anybody, how do I find that highlighted angle?
Can't you take 50 plus 60 plus like a question mark and equal 180?
Very good, Silas. Why can you do that?
Because that's, I forget the terminology, but like all three of those are supplementary.
And that's the best terminology we have. Good job, Silas. So we wouldn't say a linear pair because pair means two. So you knew it wasn't that, but you knew all three of them together were supplementary. Very good. They all add up to 180 because they're all on this line. So I can do 50 plus 60, which is 110, and then I minus that from 180 and I get 70. So if this angle is 70, now we got to find out what x is. But first, what's this angle?
X.
Not x.
70.
And that one is 70. I know I have this congruent marked here, so maybe we got confused on that. That's my fault. That was just me showing the equilateral triangles were congruent, but these are what's actually congruent. So we're right that this is my 70 right here. Last step, last triangle angle sum theorem, add them up. Ooh, set them equal to 180. 70 plus 70 is 140 minus from 180 and I get 40. Okay. Whew, we just did some speed triangles. I'm going to skip that one for now. You need to know how to do that. I just don't want to do that right now. Any questions on what we just went over? Okay. What I want you to do now for the last 10-ish minutes of class is we're going to get out this sheet of paper that looks like this. This was the other review on your Schoology. It's called Review for 4445 quiz. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you guys in breakout groups, and it's just of your choice. If you don't want to work with anyone, you just can stay in the main group and ask any questions with me. But I want you to spend like the last 10 minutes working together on this sheet. So I want you to go pull it up, and while you do that, I also want you to tell me who you want to be maybe in a group with. Anybody know who they want to work with?
I can work with Van.
Max can work with Van, if Van will let him work with him.
Yeah, that works for me.
All right.
Thanks.
All right, so Max and Van, I'm putting you in a group. All right, who else wants to work together?
Put me in a group with Barrett.
Austin and Barrett. Yep. And
CC, Gio, and I.
okay, Austin and Barrett, Cece, Gio, and Bethy.
And Silas, too, if you want.
Silas, you want to be in their group?
Sure.
Sure. Anybody who wants to work by themselves can just stay in this room with me. Anybody else want to work in partners or small groups?
I can work with Isaac.
Isaac and Elise. Amanda, I hear you trying to talk to me. Who do you want to work with?
Well, can we have a group of four?
Of course. You.
Gwenna, Megan, and Maggie.
Good. Amanda, Megan, Maggie, Gwenna.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then last I have Allie, Ava, Jade, Sydney. Allie, do any of you want to work in small groups or do you want to just stay in this room with me?
I want to work by myself.
Perfect.
I don't care.
Okay.
If Allie wants to, I'll work with her.
Allie, you want to work with Sydney?
Sure.
Sure. Okay, I'll put you guys in a group, and then I'll just leave everybody else in the big group. So I'm opening that up. You guys go to your group, and then I'll pull you back in at the end of class. Good luck with your studying.
Okay, Miss. So I had CHS live this morning, so
Okay, Jade.
yeah, and it also didn't go that great because I messed up like a lot.
Well, it was all virtual, right? That's
Nope, I went into school today.
Oh, you went into school. Well, I haven't watched the recorded version, so I'll let you know how that goes when I watch.
Yep, there's two. That's because I didn't know we were recording. I didn't hit the record button, and
Oh, that's okay.
it was not that great. Luckily, no one came for my head, but I was still very embarrassed.
You know what? We learn and we grow. We got to make mistakes to do better next time.
Okay, can I get a breakout room with you so then I can go over my answers?
Sure. I think so. I'm very new to breakout rooms,
You
so
just have to put me in a breakout room by myself, and you can join as a host.
I just don't know how to create another one.
You have to like click the little three buttons by my head.
Oh, okay, by your head. It says mute, ask to start video, chat, make host, allowed record, rename, put in waiting room, hide non-video participants, or remove.
Breakout room.
We can just do it in here, Jane.
Okay.
What are you looking at?
So I'm on the normal review.
Good. And if any of you are annoyed by us talking, you can just mute us and I'll bring us all back at 10:50. The normal review, like the one that I'm having everyone work on right now, Jade.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. SAS. Can you help me with that?
Mm-hmm. SAS means it's side angle side.
Mm-hmm.
And so that only works when you have two sides and an angle, and that angle is in between the two sides. So like I just shared my screen with you. On number 8, I've got angle or side, and I've got a side in the middle, and then I've got that angle.
Okay, I'm just gonna check my answers real quick. So number 7 is side, side, side.
Yep.
Number 8 is side, angle, side.
Yep.
Number 9 is side, side, side.
No, I got none.
Okay. Oh, is none when it's only 2?
Well, it's none when they don't match. So if you look at number 9, do you see how the triangle on the left is a side angle side?
Mm-hmm.
And then the one on the right is an angle side, an angle side side,
Mm-hmm.
which we can't have. So because of that, they don't match each other, then that means it's none. The same sides like aren't congruent and the same angles aren't congruent.
Okay, number 10 is side, angle, side. Or, yeah.
No, I got angle side. I only have one set of sides.
Where do you get the angle from?
The vertical angles.
Mm-hmm.
So the vertical angles and then the top corner angles are already marked.
Okay. Do we always put vertical angles down?
Yes. If they're there, use them.
Number 11 is angle. No, it's none.
No, I got angle side.
How do you know to put the line down?
Well, it's reflexive property. You always mark vertical angles and you always mark reflexive property.
Okay, number 12. I put a line down, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So this is gonna be angle, side, side, angle.
Yeah. Are you allowed to write that?
No.
No.
Number 13. They're vertical angles, so it's angle, side, angle.
Yes.
Number 14,
Mhm.
it's vertical angles, so it's angle, angle, side.
Angle, angle. I don't see any sides. What side do you see on number 14?
So I meant angle, angle, angle.
Yep. Is that a thing?
No.
No.
Wait, there's no AAA.
Nope. That's not a way to prove congruence. It's a way to prove similarity, which we'll get to in a couple units, but not congruence.
Okay. Do I do a vertical angle right here?
Yep.
Okay, so it's gonna be side, side angle.
Um,
Side
it,
angle. Side.
it would be, but we can't call it that. What do we call it when it's a right angle?
It's a side. It's a line. It's an angle.
Yeah, but like, what do we call the congruence of a triangle when it's a right angle and it's two sides? You have a
I don't. Oh, HL.
HL.
So it's only HL if it's right angle and two sides.
Yes.
Okay, number 16. I guess we do like 4 lines or 1 line right there in the middle. So it's gonna be angle, angle, angle. I mean side, side, side.
Side, side, side. Mhm. Okay, I gotta call the class back together to close out class, okay?
Miss White, I have a question on 10
Yeah, Ava?
on the review. Would it be angle, angle, side because the angle or the side's not in between the angles?
Yep, very good, Ava. Angle, angle,
Okay.
good. All right, I'm calling everybody back because class is over. Waiting for everybody to add back in.
It's over already.
So yeah, time flies when we're having fun, am I right?
Yeah.
Did we like the breakout rooms? Bad, good, okay. More time maybe? I think it's fun. I haven't done that really before, but we'll do more independent work as we spend more time online. So I love the idea of that. So this review is due on Tuesday when you guys take your quiz. If you need any help between now and then, we have Flex on Monday that I'll definitely be available for. But if you want any time before school, after school, or in the evening, just shoot me an email and I'll be around, okay? Good luck studying. Let me know if you need help. Have an awesome Friday and have a great weekend.